All right, everybody, what is up? We're fresh out of The Last Dance episodes 5 and 6. It is a beautiful Sunday night right now. So, in these two episodes, we kind of get an in depth look at what it means to be Michael Jordan, everything that goes along with that. We get to look at the 93 finals against the Suns. We get to look about the rivalry with the Knicks. We get to learn a lot of new things. This one was mainly focused on Michael, and with episodes past, we've kind of gotten to see a Scottie Pippen episode, a Dennis Rodman episode, but these were mainly focused on Michael for really the first time of the series. What were your general thoughts, Ethan?
Um, First, I just wanted to mention that I thought it was crazy that Michael actually wanted to sign with Adidas before Nike, and then you just think about like everything, like the
Mm-hmm.
Jordan line would not exist at all, and
Mm-hmm.
who knows? Adidas, like Nike wouldn't be anything if you honestly think about it. If he went to Adidas and things happened the way they happened, except it was just Adidas instead of Jordan, like Adidas would be running the entire sneaker industry. And when he went back to the Garden before, it was the '98 season. Yeah, and it was like the last time everyone thought he played
Yeah,
in
when he's
the
wearing the
Garden.
ones and he's
Yeah,
saying that
and
his
he
feet are
says and
bleeding.
he says his feet are bleeding,
Mm-hmm.
like, and he takes off his shoe and his sock is just completely red. That's just like Jordan stuff. I don't even know what he had that game. I'm pretty sure they said it, but like it clearly didn't stop him considering his foot was bleeding
No,
and
I don't
his,
remember how many points he had in that game, but yeah, I totally agree. That kind of jumped out at me at the beginning. Like, a young Michael Jordan didn't even want to go to Oregon to visit the Nike campus. Like, what would have happened if Michael never signed with Nike? Like, the course of basketball history would literally have been changed. But, I don't know why you would want to sign with Adidas. In my opinion, they've always made and still make some of the lamest basketball shoes out there. But, I mean, hey, Michael Jordan's obviously a man of his own taste. The one thing that I wanted to get into specifically with this reaction video, mainly because I've been looking forward to this since the documentary started, was Michael and his gambling addiction. We finally get to touch on this. Now, gambling addiction might not be the phrase everybody wants to use. That's just what I'm gonna call it, just for the sake of easy name calling here. But Michael, let's not even say addiction. Let's say Michael's gambling habit. What were your thoughts on that? And did you see anything unexpected, or was it mainly kind of what you thought went down?
I would say kind of mainly what I thought went down. I was gonna say the same thing. I wouldn't even really call it an addiction because it wasn't like a serious issue where he was like running out of money.
To our
Like
knowledge,
he's
from what we know, yeah.
Yeah, like what he said in the interview that like he'd be starving, he'd be pawning everything. His wife would have left him, his kids would have been starving. He'd just be in a financial shithole, and to our knowledge at least he wasn't. I mean, we know other players who had problems with this: Charles Barkley, Allen Iverson, not necessarily gambling, but giving money, just money issues in general. And he never, to our knowledge, like you said, he never had that. But I don't think anything really blew me away. I think a lot of it was just overreaction, especially with the Atlantic City trip with his
Mm-hmm.
father. Um, before before the series started, I just think it was all blown out of proportion. But it's definitely something that you have to touch upon because everyone thought Jordan was so perfect, but everyone has their problems.
Yeah, I was really fascinated by kind of what you just said. Everybody thought Jordan was so perfect. And when that comes to the limelight that Michael Jordan gambles and Michael Jordan staying out till 2:30 the night before a game, and Michael Jordan is being mad at his teammates, Michael Jordan punches a teammate during practice, like that kind of stuff, it damages the celebrity because we live in a world, and it wasn't much different back then, even without social media, where everything is in the moment. So when people one day hear that Michael Jordan's a gambler, that's what you're going to think for a while, and he had to live with that. He had to go through that on a day-to-day basis. And one quote that really stuck out with me throughout the show was when Michael says, it's hard being Michael Jordan. You don't want to be Michael Jordan, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And he was such an elevated person and on such a higher stratosphere than really anyone else in the world at that time, but there was so much baggage that came with that. So I can't blame Michael Jordan for going to gamble. I can't blame Michael Jordan for betting $57,000 on a golf game. I can't blame Michael Jordan for drinking, smoking cigars, any of that stuff, because with that level of power comes great responsibility. Great Spider-Man quote reference, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he backed it up in every game. This is sort of similar to Dennis Rodman going to Vegas. He came back and he wasn't out of shape or hung over his shit, completely out of his mind, like not knowing like what he was doing. Coming back, like he still focused on the goal, and that's all that really matters in the very end. Championships or not, success in that sense. It's the same thing. Like it's not like he completely flopped in the series. Like they won in 6. It was looking out of control for them at first. They were down 0-2, but they won, and that's all that really matters in the grand scheme of things.
All right, so we've gotten a look at a few of Michael Jordan's like major opponents now. Who would you say was the toughest one for him that we've seen so far? We've gotten to see the Jazz a little bit. We've gotten to see the Pistons. We've gotten to see the Knicks. We've gotten to see the Suns. We've gotten to see the Blazers. And the Lakers too. Who to you was that biggest obstacle for Michael?
100% Detroit. I mean, that entire team was giving him problems, and he said he hated them. And it was to a point where they were beating him in the very beginning, and he didn't have the pieces around him yet to win. But all in all, they were still beating him, and he had to achieve that obstacle with New York and Phoenix and all these other opponents. In the end, he beat them, and in less time in series than Detroit did. But I just think them as a whole gave him all sorts of problems.
I'm just gonna play devil's advocate just a little bit, because I obviously agree with you. I don't think any team gave Michael more real issues than Detroit, because he was physically and mentally beat down both of those years that they had to play them in the Eastern Conference Finals. So that was a huge obstacle for Mike to overcome, and kind of was something on his path to becoming the Michael Jordan that we know and love today. But I didn't realize how many problems Barkley specifically gave Michael in the finals. Now, the Suns team wasn't nearly the team that the Bulls were, and it wasn't a crazy competitive series or anything like that. But Barkley got his points. Barkley was an absolute beast, and he caused Michael and Scottie and all those guys problems when they played him, and he was absolutely a big obstacle. I always thought the Suns were kind of a team that, like, Bulls just kind of trounced through, But Barkley was no slouch, and he absolutely got his against the Bulls.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know the exact point totals off the top of my head, but the one game where they went back to Chicago for, I believe, what would have won them the series if Chicago would have won it. I mean, they steamrolled the shit out of them. I think it was a 20-plus margin at the end of the game.
Okay, so we're going into episode 7 and 8 next week. We've got 2 more weeks of this thing left. I'm really sad to see it wind down, but also I'm excited to see the end of it. What are you most looking forward to seeing that we haven't gotten to see yet?
I don't think we've taken a huge dive yet into the problems of what the documentary was like mainly filmed for, the 98 season and the issues that they had.
You could assume that we'll be mainly focused on that in at least the last 2 episodes, because there won't be many more seasons before that left.
Yeah, I mean, they've really focused on like the buildup of everything and where each person came from. They had the one about Scottie Pippen and then Dennis Rodman, and tonight's 2 episodes were more focused on Michael. And
we got a little bit of Luke Longley jazz in there, but
and yeah, I feel like eventually they have to talk about it, and I feel they've just reached the playoffs. I mean, in episode 4, I don't think they brought up anything until the very end or episode 6. I'm sorry, they didn't really bring up anything until they showed them their final regular season record, and then they said they're going to play New York or New Jersey.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good ending, and the last scene that we get sticking in our minds going into next week is Michael Jordan driving out of the mansion, being interviewed in his Range Rover on the way with the license plate that says to Trey. That was super dope, by the way. I love that. And he's saying that, I mean, he's basically saying this is it for him. You know, before the public really knows it, Michael is saying in that car, basically, yeah, I'm not really going to miss it. I've had my time. I want to walk off the court, and I want to walk off the court of champions. So Michael knew that this was his last dance, although it didn't end up being really because he went and re-signed with Washington. But it was his last real competitive season, and he knew it. So I want to see what that mentality was like and if it shifted anything going into those 1999 playoffs for him. It should be a super fun episode for us next week. I think that's when we're really going to start the deep dive, like you said, more into this last season, the last dance with the last year of Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, all those boys. We'll be back next week for a reaction as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to SemiPro. We post dope sports content every single day. Weekly podcast, documentaries, breakdowns, analysis, and more. Thanks for tuning in.